Good morning, everybody. Welcome back for installment of Scott Selections here for Saturday, October 1st. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had a loss in baseball with the Pirates team total over 2.5 runs at minus 130 on BetMGM. Unfortunately for us, we were right about Flaherty letting up a lot of base runners. The issue was Pittsburgh just cannot generate any clutch hits at all with guys on base. I believe in the first four innings, Flaherty allowed 4 hits and 2 walks. Pittsburgh stranded the bases loaded on the first couple innings, had first and second one out in a couple of innings. They just couldn't get any key hits, and Pittsburgh finished the game 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position, and they left 11 guys on base. It was painful to watch, but Pittsburgh had a lot of chances, didn't capitalize at all, finished with 1 run, and we picked up a loss. Look for a bounce back winner here on Saturday. And for today's play today, going to college football, we're going to do something that we've not actually done on the show in the past. We're going to take a player prop in a matchup between Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh, taking place at around 8 p.m. Eastern time. And for this matchup, we like Pittsburgh running back Israel Abanikanda over 100.5 rushing yards at minus 112 on Bet Online. Time recording of 2 a.m. Eastern time. So a couple reasons why I expect Abanikanda to have a big game on Saturday. First reason, looking at his last couple of games, he's been amazing and he's been getting a ton of work. Abanikanda has had at least 19 carries in each of the last 3 games, and he's also averaged 25 carries per game during that span. And with that huge workload, he's also generated a lot of yards because Abanikanda has recorded at least 133 rushing yards in each of those last 3 games. And to go through the actual opponents, some of you might be concerned that Georgia Tech is awful. They just fired their coach. What are the chances that Pittsburgh gets out to a big lead and potentially benches all the starters? The thing is, Pittsburgh has gone off to pretty big leads in the last couple of games, and Abanikanda still got a lot of work. To go through the actual numbers, in the second game of the season, they played Tennessee. They lost in overtime, but he had 25 carries for 154 yards. Then they played Western Michigan. They beat Western Michigan by 21. We know Western Michigan's not a very good team in the MAC, and Pittsburgh won by 3 touchdowns. Yet he still had 31 carries in that game for 133 yards. And then last week they played Rhode Island, an FCS team. They won by 21. And he ended up having 19 carries for 177 yards and 4 touchdowns. But the point is, he got benched towards the end of that Rhode Island game, still had 19 carries. The Western Michigan one's fascinating, though, because they won by 21. He had 31 touches. But I do expect him to get a decent amount of work because we know Pittsburgh's passing game is not great. Slovis is back behind center. Is he good? Not really. But Abanikanda is definitely the best offensive player this team has. And based on the workload he's had in the last 3 games, it seems like the coaching staff has realized that he's the main focal point and they're going to keep feeding him the rock. But to go through the actual defensive numbers for Georgia Tech is awful against the run. So to go through the numbers here, Georgia Tech has played against 3 FBS opponents this season. In those 3 games, it has allowed 239.7 rushing yards per game, which is the 8th most in the country. So Georgia Tech has one of the worst rush defenses in the entire FBS. And now they're facing off against a guy who's had at least 133 yards in each of the last 3 games. I think Abanikanda could break one for 70. He could end up with just a bunch of chunk carries for 9, 10 yards apiece. But I do think 100.5 for a guy who should end up with at least 20 carries is extremely low. And I do think that he should get even more work potentially because of the weather. And it's not supposed to be good weather. It's supposed to have about 11-mile-per-hour winds throughout the entire game with rain throughout the entire game. I believe the rain expectancy is about 82%. So with bad weather and with an offense that loves to run the ball anyway, and a defense that is one of the worst in the entire country at stopping the run, I do think that Abanikanda should have a massive game here. And I think 100.5 is way too low. I get the number sounds high in principle because maybe you might be used to NFL totals for actual player props. But for college, against these awful rush defenses, sometimes you can't find a number that's actually the right number. And I do think that 100.5 is way too low. I think if he ends up with 20 carries, he'll probably finish with 120, maybe even more. Once again, he could break one. He does have a lot of speed, and he does have a lot of big runs throughout the season. He had a 67-yarder against Rhode Island. He had a 76-yarder against Tennessee. I think he's going to pick this defense apart, and as a result, I think he should go over this 100.5 relatively easily over the course of this game. So play that once again here for Saturday, October 1st, is going to be on Pittsburgh running back Israel Abanikanda over 100.5 rushing yards at minus 112 on Bet Online. Bye, everyone.